Okay, let's dive right into this. You know, there's this massive desire for remote work across Africa. We're talking, what, 73% of people wanting it?
Yeah, huge numbers.
Yeah.
And nearly half, 42%, already working from home at least sometimes.
And yet, paradoxically, many international companies still seem, well, hesitant to hire talent directly from the continent.
It's true. You hear about the usual suspects for this hesitation.
Hmm.
Navigating compliance across different countries, managing time zones. Those are real issues, sure.
Hmm.
But what's particularly striking from the source we're exploring today is a more fundamental barrier they encountered.
And what's that?
A basic lack of awareness, or maybe more accurately, a lack of belief in the readily available high-quality talent. It's less about infrastructure, and more about perception and trust.
Which brings us squarely to our source material today. It's a personal account, right? Someone based in Africa sharing their recent experience trying to hire African freelancers for a European client.
Exactly. And they walk through the whole messy process,
Yeah.
highlighting exactly where things went wrong and, crucially, outlining very practical solutions.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack that real world experience. We're going to pull out the specific problems they face, the lessons learned, and the actionable solutions proposed.
Mhm. This is designed for you, whether you're someone seeking remote work, hoping to stand out, or maybe a company trying to tap into this talent pool effectively.
And just to set the scene, this initial hiring attempt sounds like it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
The source started by shortlisting 4 candidates from platforms like Fiverr based on their portfolios, thought they had some promising leads. Instead, it became what they vividly described as a whole train wreck.
A train wreck, yeah.
Yeah.
3 out of the 4 candidates presented significant issues almost immediately.
Wow.
And one of the very first red flags mentioned right at the outset was candidates being dishonest about their location.
Oh, that's a big one.
Huge. Claiming they were based in places like London or the US when they're actually in Nigeria, for instance. The author of the account is crystal clear. This is absolutely not how you land a remote job.
No way.
Trust is everything in remote
Oh,
relationships.
yeah.
Sharding with a lie is just an instant disqualifier. Doesn't matter how skilled you are.
Right, okay. So putting that fundamental trust issue aside for a moment, which is obviously critical, let's dig into the specific, maybe skill-based problems that became apparent. The first major hurdle, poor written communication.
Yeah, this might sound basic, but in remote work, so much hinges on asynchronous communication. Messages, emails, documents.
That isn't live chat.
Exactly. It's not always read instantly.
Okay.
So your written word must be clear, timely, and professional. It's often the main way you interact.
This source shared a story about this, right? A candidate from Kenya.
Mm-hmm. Great portfolio. The client was genuinely impressed by the technical work.
Mhm.
But the communicationistic problems. Initially unresponsive to messages. Then, when they did reply, the tone came across as, well, kind of rude to the source.
Crouch.
Not good.
Not good at all. That lack of promptness and the unprofessional tone in writing were immediate red flags.
And you think about it, every single remote application process, whether it's a proposal, a cover letter, your CV, it all starts with writing.
It does. If you can't make a strong, clear impression there, you're already behind. It's pretty much non-negotiable for getting past that first look.
So, given how critical this is, what's the fix? What did the source suggest?
Well, beyond the obvious need to just, work on your writing skills and grammar,
Practice makes perfect, yeah.
the force points to a modern, practical tool. Large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT.
Ah, okay. How does that help?
The advice is simple but effective. Draft your message, your proposal, that crucial cover letter,
Yeah.
then run it through ChatGPT. Ask it to check grammar, suggest clear phrasing, improve the tone.
Right, so it's like a spell check, but way more advanced. Exactly. But the key thing, I think, as the source implies, isn't just letting the AI write it for you.
Oh,
It's using the output as a learning tool.
Hmm.
Look at what it changes, understand why it changed it. That way, you improve your own writing over time.
got it. Use it to learn, not just to copy paste.
Precisely. It's an accessible resource that can make a huge difference, both for immediate clarity and for long-term skill development.
Okay, makes sense. So assuming you nail the written part and move forward, the next stage is often video calls. And according to this account, that brought up problem number 2, a significant lack of video etiquette.
Yeah, video calls, Zoom, Meet, Teams, whatever platform you use, they're like the digital handshake, the virtual meeting room.
They really are.
They're essential for daily check-ins, team stuff, building that personal connection you miss from being in an office. Being seen and heard clearly is absolutely foundational.
And the description of that same Kenyan candidate's video call was, well, it was something else.
It really highlighted the issues. Joined using a phone, okay, that happens, but the camera lens looked blurry or smudged.
So you couldn't see them clearly.
Right. And the lighting. Sitting in a dark corner with a bright light source like a door or window directly behind them.
Ah, the silhouette effect?
Exactly. Turn them into a shadow. And then, mid-conversation, someone walks into the background, starts talking to the candidate.
No.
Yes. And the candidate actually turned away from the camera, away from the call, to respond to the person in the room.
Oh, wow. That's not great.
That one story just perfectly illustrates multiple issues. A dirty lens. Distracting. Poor lighting, especially light behind you. So common, so ineffective. Makes your face dark, hard to read expressions, especially tough on darker skin tones, sometimes on camera.
And the distractions.
Yeah, someone walking through, or worse, interrupting and having the candidate engage. It just signals a lack of focus, a lack of respect for the client's time.
These might seem like small things, but remotely, they really shape perception. What are the simple fixes? Because they sound fixable.
They really are simple and don't need expensive gear. First, camera position. Get it roughly at eye level.
Ow!
Prop your laptop on books, use a cheap phone stand. It's not just looks, it's psychological. Feels more like talking to an equal, not looking up or down.
Okay, eye level. What else?
Lighting. Your face needs light on it. Easiest way. Sit facing a window. Natural light is your friend. No need for fancy ring lights initially.
Face a light, don't have it behind you. Got it.
Exactly. And third, distractions. Minimize them. Find the quietest spot you can. Let housemates or family know you're on an important call. Treat it seriously, like an in-person meeting.
What if it's just unavoidable sometimes?
Then it's far better to politely explain and ask to reschedule, or maybe move to a different spot where you can focus.
I appreciate the source mentioning that maybe later, once you've built rapport, a kid popping in briefly might be okay. I've definitely had that happen on calls.
Oh, for sure. There's flexibility once trust is built. But for those initial calls, interviews, important client meetings, a distraction-free environment is really key for making that strong first impression. Professionalism, focus.
That leads us really nicely into problem number 3. Not showing professionalism more broadly, or specifically failing to adopt what the source calls a consultant mindset.
Right. Clients hiring remotely, especially for projects, they're usually looking for solutions. They're busy, they need someone capable who can step in, understand the challenge, and propose an effective way forward. Often quickly.
So you need to project that capability.
Exactly. Showing up as that capable, problem-solving professional builds that vital trust you need for remote collaboration to work well.
This story about the third candidate, the one claiming to be in London, really nails this point, doesn't it?
It does. When asked about their animation background, they gave super vague answers. Things like, oh, I've done so many projects I can't even think of them.
That doesn't inspire confidence.
Not at all. They couldn't give specific examples, couldn't talk about their process or what problems they solved for past clients or the results. Instead, their whole focus was on how cheaply they could do the job.
Which isn't the same as demonstrating value.
Exactly. Simply saying you have skills isn't enough. You have to demonstrate your expertise, your process, be ready to talk specifics. What was the client trying to achieve? What was your approach? What happened?
You mentioned this source used a consultant heart analogy. Like a doctor.
Yeah, I like that. A good doctor doesn't just say, I can fix you.
Yeah.
They ask questions first to diagnose, right? What are your symptoms? How long? What makes it better or worse?
Gather information first.
Precisely. They need to understand the specific problem before recommending a treatment. A professional consultant or freelancer acting like one does the same.
So the solution here is to actively adopt this mindset. Ask questions in that initial conversation. Don't just pitch.
Yes, absolutely. Instead of just waiting to be told what to do, ask about the client's business, their specific challenges related to this project, what they've tried before, what success actually looks like for them.
What does that achieve?
It shows you're genuinely interested, you're methodical, it signals that you're focused on their needs, not just showing off your skills. Then, when you do propose a solution, you frame it specifically. Here's how this solves your particular problem and the impact it will have on your business.
And this whole approach, focusing on understanding and solving their problem, that builds trust.
Huge trust. And trust, as the source points out, is what lets you command higher value. Clients will pay more if they trust you'll solve their big problems effectively.
It shifts you from just being someone who does tasks.
And being a valuable partner. That's the goal.
All right, moving on. Problem number 4. This one's interesting because it's about skills, but maybe not the main job skill. It's a lack of essential basic skills.
That's right. Beyond being a great animator or writer or whatever your core skill is, remote work requires a baseline of digital literacy, administrative competence. And the source found many candidates were, well, lacking there.
What kind of basics are we talking about? Give us some examples.
Things like knowing common keyboard shortcuts, in tools like Google Docs, basic proficiency in Google Sheets or Excel, being able to whip up a simple graphic in Canva,
Okay.
and effective use of scheduling tools like Google Calendar, knowing how to handle time zones correctly, adding agendas to meeting invites, sharing live links that actually work when clicked.
It sounds like the kind of digital common sense you pick up, but maybe isn't explicitly taught. The anecdote about the first candidate, the one from Nigeria, seems relevant here too.
How so?
Well, you said he was great on communication and professionalism, which is fantastic. But his actual portfolio, his core skill demonstration, was the weakest of the four. So it highlights you need both, right? The job skill and these foundational digital skills.
Precisely. You need the whole package. And the source stresses that candidates who do excel at these seemingly basic admin and digital tasks really shine. They stand out.
They give a personal example.
Yeah, they shared how they've streamlined their own process. Now they have like a single link for a client that covers everything. Scheduling, reminders, presentations, even live contract signing and payment right there on a call.
Wow, that's slick.
It is. And that level of tech fluency and organization sends a very powerful signal. I'm reliable, I'm capable, I've got this handled.
So the solution is pretty straightforward then. Actively work on upskilling in these foundational areas. Don't assume you know it all.
Yes. The source specifically mentioned the LX Virtual Assistant program as a resource. Not necessarily saying everyone should be a VA,
Right.
but that program is designed to build exactly this kind of remote work etiquette and foundational digital skill set. It helps establish that crucial baseline.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, problem number 5. This ties back closely to the consultant mindset and trust. Pricing and positioning, often meaning undervaluing your work.
Yeah, this taps into perception of value. The source used that gold-silver analogy. Value is often perceived based on price. Gold isn't inherently thousands of times more useful, but its high price makes it seem more valuable.
And the issue identified is that many talented people in Africa might undervalue themselves compared to international rates, maybe thinking their location sets their price ceiling.
Exactly. Assuming they can't charge as much as someone sitting in London or New York.
But the core message again is,
Clients aren't primarily buying your location. They're buying your ability to solve their problem. Full stop.
this is where the source had a personal breakthrough, right? A mindset shift.
Yeah, a real unlock moment.
Yeah.
Realizing their value wasn't about the hours clocked or where their desk was, but the impact and the output they delivered.
They gave examples.
Concrete ones. Earning $100 for an article that only took them 2 hours, that's $50 an hour, right? Or landing $2,500 for 2 weeks of part-time work, maybe 4 hours a day. The value is in the finished piece, the project outcome, not just billing time.
So if you've tackled the first 4 problems.
Right. If you have strong communication, you handle video calls like a pro, you adopt that consultant problem-solving mindset, and you have solid basic digital skills. Then you've built a strong foundation for value.
Then the solution here is,
Internalize the worth of your work. Believe in it. Charge based on the value and impact you provide, the size of the problem you solve for the client, not based on your geography or just counting hours.
position yourself as valuable by solving bigger problems. A simple Canva template is one thing.
Building a complex, interactive 3D animated website is another entirely. The bigger the problem you solve well, the higher the value you can command.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. Synthesizing from the source's experience, the 5 key areas where candidates fell short were poor written communication,
Lack of video etiquette.
not showing professionalism or that consultant mindset,
Lacking essential basic digital skills.
and undervaluing or mispricing their work based on location instead of value.
And the absolutely critical takeaway the author emphasizes, the thread through all of this.
What's that?
None of these are fixed traits. They aren't inherent to a location or a person. They are all skill-based.
They are all learnable skills, things you can develop and improve over time with effort and practice.
Absolutely. This isn't about fundamental capability. It's about developing the specific skills and the right mindset needed to really succeed in the global remote work game, as this real-world hiring story showed.
This deep dive into this account has really clarified both the huge potential for remote talent from Africa and also the very practical, actionable challenges that need to be overcome.
And the solutions are accessible, right? It's more about commitment than needing resources that are out of reach. Improving writing, mastering video presence, thinking like a consultant, building those digital basics, understanding your value, these are all tangible steps.
So for you, the listener, especially if you're maybe newer to remote work, this account gives a really clear roadmap of pitfalls to avoid and areas to focus on. The source even suggests a great way to gain experience is looking for chances to go behind the scenes with others already doing it successfully.
Yeah, learn by observing or assisting. This deep dive gives you the framework from one really insightful, though tough, experience. The 5 key areas are clear, but it does leave us with a fascinating question for you to think about. If the skills are learnable and accessible, and the talent is clearly abundant, what then becomes the final hurdle in truly unlocking this massive remote work potential? Is it mostly down to individual commitment to mastering these skills, or is there a bigger challenge in shifting those international perceptions and building that initial trust across the distance?